Okay, so it's Felicity from GetYourRockOut speaking to the lovely Philly from Gama. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well, very good. Early start today. We got up at 4 a.m. to get here. Well, it's good, it's worth it. People are starting to come in, it's looking good, shipping up.
Brilliant, and we are, of course, at Damnation Festival, which is just one of the best metal festivals around. Who else are you looking forward to seeing today?
Actually, mates of mine, Witch Sorrow, are on now. So I'm probably going to miss a bit of them. Sorry, guys. And Electric Wizard. Really looking forward to seeing them tonight because I'm a recent convert to them, so that'll be pretty exciting, you know. Honeymoon period.
Fantastic, and you know, you guys, you're playing a bit later on. Are you excited? Do you get nervous before sets?
Well, not really. It's more kind of like, you know, you have to get into a headspace where you're like, right, we're going to do this right, you know, like it's kind of like preparation. So obviously there's a bit of a make sure we do it right kind of thing, but not really nervous anymore. We've gotten so used to doing it now, you know. It is always better when you get to a place and you see how cool the stage is. Like here at Damnation, they have an awesome venue and everything, and there's a lot of people and stuff, so you get more excited than worried, you know.
Brilliant. And you guys have been around for a good 10 years now.
That's right.
How much have you seen the scene kind of progress and change since you started?
Well, yeah, well, I suppose the biggest change is that people now listen to thrash, and when we started out, nobody listened to thrash. So, yeah, you know, when we started, we were playing around bars and punk clubs around Belfast, really, mostly, and around the small town we're from, Newry. And back then we used to have to explain to people what thrash metal was, you know. When we were trying to hawk our demo, we would rhyme off the names of all these bands who we thought it sounded like to people. So, you know, back then it was very much a stranger to people, but now, like, thrash is hugely revived and all this kind of thing. So I suppose in that way, everywhere we've been, from Mexico to America to all around Europe, you see it everywhere, you know, so it's kind of amazing. I suppose at the same time, because we're now 10 years older, we're probably much more clueless about what's actually happening in metal. Because, you know, when you're like 19, you're all like, oh yeah, I must, you know, read this and check out that. And now I'm like 29, I'm just like, yes, that's fine, yeah. So we're kind of clueless.
Brilliant, and you guys were one of the first ever bands actually to release a full album as a free download while you were on a label. I mean, what brought that around, and do you kind of stand by that decision now?
Oh yeah, totally stand by it. You know, it's you know, it's a story that continues all the time because the repercussions from that are still being felt, kind of. Well, it came about because we were, you know, on this label, and we'd released an album ourselves. Then we'd released one album with Eric, and we kind of realised like there were certain limitations to what you could do. You know, there was only a certain amount of money that could go behind you. There was only a certain number of people who you could reach and what you could do. And I myself wasn't really buying CDs or anything. We were sharing everything and streaming and stuff. So it was kind of like, you know, what's the most honest thing we can do here, and what's something we can do that, you know, nobody else has done yet. And it was kind of amazing to us. It was almost as if that was an opportunity that was sitting in plain sight and nobody had grabbed it, which really confused us, because it's like the most obvious thing ever. Give it away for free, everyone will talk about it and more people will hear about you, plus it's how we listen to music. So we went to Eric with it, and they were really super up for it. They were actually waiting for a band to come along who were interested in it, so, you know, fair play to them for that. You know, it's something that we massively stand by, you know, and we're about to release another album now next year. And, you know, we've fought quite hard to make sure that there will be some kind of free element to the release. You know, it's with a different label and stuff, but it's something that once you start that ball rolling, you can't just take it back, you know. Yeah. So it's interesting, you know. One of these days we'll have to write a book about it or something, because even from a music business perspective, it really did, like, it did have some pretty big ripples. It had some serious repercussions. Like in America, a lot of stores wouldn't stock our album and stuff because it had been released free digitally. So, you know, there were all these kind of questions, and, you know, what Eric thought of the release and what we thought of the release were two different things and stuff. Basically, what the upshot is these things are beneficial for the artist, but for the traditional, you know, business structures, they frighten people. So, you know, it's not an opportunity a lot of people are willing to take by the horns.
Do you think it would have as much impact now? Because obviously there are so many bands that are doing that kind of thing. Do you think that if you'd waited a few years, it wouldn't have had nearly the same effect?
It's a good question. Are many bands doing it now? Do a lot of bands sign bands, yeah?
It seems to be becoming much more. I think people are signing a lot more to much smaller labels.
Yeah,
as well, and saying,
so it is a bit, yeah, so like there isn't exactly a massive budget there to start with. Yeah, well, I think we did it at the perfect time. We did it at the perfect time for us. Certainly, like, whether or not it's in the bigger picture, it was perfect. We did it at the perfect time for us because we had just reached that point where we were like, okay, we can see what you can do and what you can't do, what you're not allowed to do, and then we'll do it now and it'll change things, and it did change things. for better and worse in different areas. You know, some people wouldn't carry the CD, but we got to tour in South America where we had never released an album before, you know, but lots of people knew who we were. So for us it was perfect. I do think, yeah, in times it was, oddly looking back, it was a weirdly prescient thing to do because, as I said, it is much more common now. When we were doing it back then, everybody was like, oh, Nine Inch Nails and Radiohead, and now there are much more examples of that. So like I remember when Joe and I were originally talking about it, we were having a cup of tea, very rock and roll, and we were discussing the idea. I was like, you know, this is awesome because we're going to like beat everybody to this. We were like, if we do this, we're going to beat everyone. We're going to beat Metallica. Like, they're hardly the most likely candidate, but the idea was all these bigger bands with so many smart people working for them and all these big ideas and all this money had never got there. So yeah, it was really, really good time. It was very fortuitous. It's the sort of thing though that we're really hoping to build on, you know, because as a band we're not settling for the ordinary in that way, you know, we're not just on a treadmill.
So I'm guessing that you're one of these bands that are embracing the technological age and not saying, oh, I wish the good old days were when there was nothing like the free download.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because, you know, that's you'd have to be pretty fucking blinkered to think of music like that. I think the most amazing thing that digital has done, obviously we're super behind all that, but what I think the most amazing thing it's done is it's turned music into kind of like you know, use a wanky word, it's like a continuum of music now, you know. Brand new music sits beside really fucking old music, you know, and when you're using something like Grooveshark or Spotify or iTunes or whatever, or YouTube or BitTorrent, there's no barrier between a Lady Gaga album from last year and Robert Johnson's albums from the new. So I think that's the mode. It's a democratization of music and of content in general. So I think, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. There's no coming back for it, and I'm glad there's no coming back from it. You know? Yeah.
It's nice to hear somebody being positive about it. It makes a pleasant change, actually.
Well, I think it's going to be profitable eventually for people too.
Definitely.
Like eventually the business will modulate itself, or die. You know, so.
One or two. You've got a fourth album coming out early next year. Tell us everything there is to know about it.
Okay, there's some is still under the Official Secrets Act though, you know. We recorded it in Ireland and here in the UK over 3 months, I think, from September to November. And we recorded with Scott Atkins, who used to be in Stamping Ground, who's basically been our producer since we signed to Eric. So he made the last two albums, Citizen Brain and Tales from the Grave Space, with us. It took a long time to write. Our last album came out in November 2009, I think. So it's been a while. It took a long time to write, a lot of agonising over songs and things, but I've been listening to it all week now. We have the rough versions of the songs. It's slightly different. It's still thrash. It's definitely got more of a heavy metal influence, a bit more of a sort of metal edge to it as opposed to just straight up thrash. And we made sure to stick in one or two songs that are still really crossover and things like that. So yeah, like it's good. We'll have a title, but we're not saying what it is at the minute. But we stole the title from Kurt Vonnegut, the author. So that's all I can say. You know, he made it up and we stole it. Yeah, we're hopefully going to release it with a new label who are based in Europe. But we haven't signed anything yet, so I don't want to say. And you know, we have a pretty good plan for how we're going to release it. It'll be out by the spring. We're going to do something interesting before that, with a free content kind of thing. And yeah, like it's like 12 songs. It's got the shortest song we've ever written on it. It's 2 seconds, and and it's got the longest song we've ever written on it as well, which is like 4 minutes. So yeah, so it's exciting. You know, it was a real labour of love. We made the album when we were unsigned. We self-financed it. You know, we had to sleep on floors. It was very much a DIY kind of thing. So it's nice to get to the other side of that, hand it to a record label and say, right, now we're back in a kind of system with it. So yeah, really excited about it.
Brilliant. And we've heard a few of the lyrics from Beverly Hills Robocop so far.
Yes.
I mean, tell us where the story from that came.
Yeah, right.
A pretty good story.
Yeah, well, Joe, our bass player, and I talk a lot of rubbish when we're at work on Facebook. And we were on Facebook one day and we were making some joke, you know, like Dawn of the Day of the Dead or something. So we started doing all these, you know, movie mashup names. And yeah, like I can't even remember half of them. There was like Dawn of the Day of the Dead or like something like this, and then like we're rocking on through them, and we had some really, really funny ones. I must look it up actually in the chat history, and somebody said Beverly Hills Robocop, and we were just like, wow, like, you know, yeah, so we that song was going to be a completely different song for a long time, and it put on many different suits of clothes lyrically. You know, we had like, it was going to be this, it was going to be about this, it was about this, and we really ran out of steam, and we were like, what the fuck are we going to do with this song, you know? Because some songs just pop out of the ground like a potato, you know, as Tom Waits says, and other songs you have to make them, like the struggle to, you know, get finished. So that song hung around for ages, just kind of worrying us. And in the end we were like, right, fuck it, we'll have to make sure we put Beverly Hills Robocop in the album, so we wrote these lyrics, and yeah, like, it needs a tiny little tweak yet, but it's like, I think it's one of the best songs in the album. It's really good. It's a very catchy chorus, almost insultingly catchy chorus actually.
Well, I can't wait to hear that. The next kind of 6 to 12 months, you've got the album coming out. What else can we expect from you? Where can we see you?
Yeah, well, we're hopefully going to do a lot more interesting things, you know. We're going to get the album out in the spring. Hopefully we'll be returning to South America early in the year, maybe even before the release of the album. We're going to go back to the United States in the spring. We're going to get back to the UK, do another European tour. Then during the summer we'll get the summer festivals. We did some great ones this summer. We were in Hellfest and stuff, but you know, next year we'll hopefully get another whole interesting run. And then
anything you can tell us about festival-wise?
We haven't anything booked in, no. Just like, as I say, the only things that we're circling is, you know, South America maybe early in the year, and then a pretty interesting US tour with a couple of other bands, like Vector or one of the bands. Yeah, like really interesting kind of lineup for the springtime, for like, I think it was April, May. I actually found out about that one on Twitter. I was on Twitter and I was like, I'll be vain and search Gama Bomb, and this dude was all like, booking a US tour for Gama Bomb and Vector, and I was like, I actually messaged him, I was like, are you? So yeah, those are the two things for the minute, but like, you know, we have a couple of massive goals we'd like to achieve. You know, we'd like to get a couple of videos done. We'd like to go to Asia for the first time, Southeast Asia, and go to Japan and stuff. And we'll have a bit of a sort of avenue of possibility there, so we're very excited about that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Really, really, really looking forward to hearing the new stuff.
Really busy, you know.
Yeah, it's snowed under.
But our team are trying to pull me away behind the camera.
Yeah, have a fantastic show tonight. It's just going to be an absolutely killer one. So thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Thank
and we'll get a fist bump.
Yes, we can.